Hi, it's Mrs. Crabtree with Homeschool Holiday. I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to look at some fun facts related to the phases of the moon. There are 8 phases of the moon, and they are in what's called the lunar cycle. Currently, the way we tell time is based on the Gregorian calendar. And this calendar was named after Pope Gregory the 13th. We began using this calendar in the year 1582. It took about 300 years for everyone in the world to jump on board and think that this calendar was the way to go. But now everyone uses the same method for keeping track of days and years. The Gregorian calendar is based on the Earth's orbit of the Sun and the Moon's orbit of the Earth. You know that a year is the length of time it takes for the Earth to complete an orbit of the Sun. And we split a year into 12 months. Now, these months are loosely based on the length of time it takes for the Moon to complete a full orbit of Earth. The word month actually comes from the word moon, a moon. Kind of sounds like a cow saying it. People thousands of years ago needed to make sense of how time was evolving, how it was going from day to day, what was happening. And they used the objects in the sky. They used the sun, the moon, and the stars. It let them know what time of year it was, and the moon's phases let them know what time of the month it was. So from where I live in the northern hemisphere, the right side of the moon shines with the light from a crescent shape to a semicircle. When it gets over halfway, it bulges, and we call it a gibbous shape. The light from the moon continues to grow from the right until we see that beautiful full moon, and then we have to worry about werewolves, don't we? No, I'm just kidding. There's no such thing as werewolves. This process, going from right to left, is called waxing, and it takes about 2 weeks. From there, the opposite happens. The left side sections we see reflecting light shrink to nothing, and this we get the new moon. The shrinking process is called waning. Now, if you live in the southern hemisphere, it's just the opposite. The moon waxes from left and wanes to the right. What this demonstrates is that our vantage point on Earth is what explains the phases we see. The moon doesn't change. In fact, we see the same side of the moon, always. The moon rotates on its axis in exactly the same time that it takes to revolve around the Earth. So the consequence of that rotating and revolving being the same is that the moon always keeps the same face turned toward Earth. Fascinating, isn't it? So the way that I'm going to show you the phases of the moon is based on a northern hemisphere point of view. I also want to make sure that you understand the difference between the phases of the moon and the lunar cycle. Some people use those terms interchangeably, and that's not quite right. So you want to sound really smart when you're talking. You should know the difference. So the phases of the moon are the different amount of reflected light you see from Earth while the moon is in orbit around the Earth. And the lunar cycle is the fact that these phases repeat. Think about the other phases, the other cycles that you know, the water cycle, the life cycle. Those are things that happen over and over and over. So the lunar cycle just means that those phases repeat. Pretty cool, huh? Take a look at this diagram I created for you. So you can see now there's only one Earth, right? So this diagram is to help you understand. And I've got the Earth's orbit around the sun here with all the different phases in the proper position. Now, my son is very bothered by this diagram because he said the curve would be much steeper. So don't be bothered by my diagram. I just needed to fit all those Earths on one diagram, okay? So this is not to scale. The sizes are probably totally wonky, but I just want you to be able to visualize the way the phases of the moon work together with the Earth, with the sun, and with the moon. There's a lot of things going on, okay? So when the moon is orbiting around the Earth, that's the white, and all they're going around the sun, that's the Earth in all its different positions along my diagram here. We start with the new moon where you can't see anything. Then you see a little bit, the waxing crescent, our first quarter moon. Finally, we get to the waxing gibbous. Remember, we said that was more than halfway. It was kind of bulging. The werewolf moon or the full moon. Remember, no such thing as werewolves, but it's kind of fun to talk about. Then we're going from left. We've got more light reflecting to the left. The waning gibbous, our last quarter, the waning crescent. And because it's a cycle, it repeats itself, and the new moon goes all over again. Pretty cool? If you'd like to create your own phases of the moon calendar, you can do that by downloading this free worksheet that's available on the Homeschool Holiday website. The link is available in the video description. And if you want to see our full Homeschool Holiday video where I teach you more about each phase in particular and how things are working together in that cycle, you can check out our Homeschool Holiday Phases of the Moon Google Slides teaching video and differentiated worksheets. The link to that product is also available in the description. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day and you learned a little bit and some fun facts about the phases of the moon. And we'll see you again, because at Homeschool Holiday, there's always something to celebrate.